Good evening and welcome everybody to this called meeting actually for the Northside Board of Trustees. Before we call the meeting to order, I'd just like to go over a few rules that we have for conducting our meeting. The order of our business is set out in the agenda, and the purpose of our meeting is to conduct board business, and for that reason it is held in public. It's not a public forum, however, we do provide the opportunity for audience participation for any agenda item that we may have. So if anybody needs to sign up, okay, and look at everybody looking blank right now. So, but if anybody, do we have anybody sign up at all? Yeah, we could check. Oh, sorry, looking the wrong way. Okay, thank you. All right, so we don't have to go over those rules then. So we'll go ahead and we'll officially call the meeting to order. Please stand, and Trustee Corinne Saldana will lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
We ask your guidance and blessings upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators, as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, thank you, Trustee Saldana. I will announce that, y'all know Trustee Hall would not miss a meeting, but she took the opportunity. She's out for this one. I think she's on vacation time, so we'll see her at the next one. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. So our very first and exciting agenda item is our recognitions. And we'll turn that over to our world-famous superintendent.
World famous, not to be confused with infamous. Good evening, members of the board. This is truly an exciting time as we prepare for the 2023-2024 school year. Really, the past 2 weeks has been all about leadership development and really preparing to welcome our staff and particularly our teachers back. And so this evening, we have the opportunity to introduce our newest principals, campus principals, as well as directors across the district. I believe we have 93. We do everything large in Northside ISD, as I have come to realize. And so we're really excited, these individuals joining Team Northside, and it truly is about teamwork. In fact, that is our theme for convocation, and so you're going to see it this evening, I think, in these very, very bright individuals, and we are so excited to welcome them to our wonderful team here in Northside. So they're going to introduce themselves. I believe they're going to obviously tell you who they are, where they are coming from, and of course, where they're serving this upcoming school year. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this piece of the program over, I believe, to Mr. Ray Galindo.
Yes, sir, Dr. Kraft, Mr. Blunt, trustees, as is tradition in Northside, and here in August, we bring and seated before you, you have every new administrator and director new to their position since August of last year. And so actually, as I look at Dr. Kraft, you're part of that crew too. So
John Kraft, superintendent, at least I think, for the time being, coming from a superintendent position. Colleen.
there you go. So you get to start us off. So yes, we have a mic, and we have on one side, as we've done, elementary, I believe, and on the other side, we have secondary as well as, and directors on both sides. So I'll hand it over, and I think the mic's already been.
All right, testing. All right, good evening. My name is Christina Lakey, and I previously served at Franklin Elementary as the special ed campus coordinator, and I am returning to serve at Kruger Elementary, where I was previously.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Foley Ventura. I served as the ECSE teacher at Steuben for a very long time, and I'm now at Mary Hall as associate principal.
Hello, my name is Adriana Garcia. I was previously the administrative intern at Callison, and now I'm the associate principal at Callison.
Hello, I'm Hannah Jackson. I was previously the first grade team lead at Tomlinson Elementary and now the associate principal at Tomlinson Elementary.
Good evening, Lisa Mendez. I was formerly the associate principal at Mary Hall, and I am now the principal at Carson Elementary.
Hi, my name is Marissa Barbosa. I was formerly a first grade teacher at Mernon Elementary, and now I am the associate principal at Powell Elementary.
Good evening. My name is Adriana Martinez, former STEM teacher at Bolt and now associate principal at Bolt.
Hello, my name is Nancy Garcia. I was formerly a fifth grade teacher at Myers Elementary, and I'm the associate principal at Bronze Station.
Sean Simmons. I am joining the Northside team from Corpus Christi ISD, where I served as assistant principal, and I'm now the associate principal at Glen Oaks.
Good evening. I am LaShonda Robinson, previously served at Bronze Station Elementary, associate principal. I'm currently at Meade Elementary.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Castillo. I was the associate principal at Glen Oaks Elementary, and now I am the associate principal at Broccoli Elementary.
Hi, I'm Amanda Munoz. I was formerly the associate principal at Powell Elementary, and now I'm the associate principal at Knowlton Elementary.
Hello, I'm Rachel Briscoe, and I am a former fifth grade teacher at Aoi Elementary and currently serving as the associate principal at Cole Elementary.
Good evening. I am Christina Diaz. I was formerly the associate principal at Kruger Elementary, and now I am proud to be back at Rhodes Elementary as their principal.
Hi, Lindsay Kent. I'm formerly in the Curriculum and Instruction Department as an IST, and now I am the associate principal at Helotes Elementary.
Hi, Erin Bell. I was previously the math instructional coach at Knowlton Elementary, and now I am the associate principal at Evers Elementary.
Hi, I'm Rosanna Guajardo. I was formerly the AP at Hausman Elementary, and I am now the principal at Evers.
Good evening. My name is Erica Zagala. I was formerly the principal of Allen Elementary School and now the principal of Mora Elementary School.
Good evening. I'm Christina Reyes. Formerly, I was admin intern at Callison, and now I will be at Allen Elementary for associate principal.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Ramirez. I'm formerly the associate principal at Allen, and now I'm the principal at Allen.
Hi, my name is Amanda Frazier. I was formerly the AP at Michael, and now I'm the associate principal at Hoffman.
Good evening, Laura Sheffield. I was the instructional support teacher here in the professional learning department, and now I'm the associate principal at Mernon Elementary.
Hello, I'm Shannon De La Cruz. I was the Spec Ed campus coordinator at Cody Elementary, and now I'm the associate principal at Hausman Elementary.
Hi, my name is Lauren Masters. I was a first grade ESL teacher at McDermott Elementary and now the AP at Michael Elementary.
Hello, I'm Oscar Jimenez. I'm associate principal at Meade Ellis, formerly admin intern at Cable Elementary.
Good evening, Shane Mernon, formerly fifth grade team lead at Dr. Wynn Mernon Elementary, currently AP at Lewis.
Hello, I'm Nicole Wall. I was previously the admin intern at Passmore, and now I'm happy to be the associate principal at Passmore.
Good evening. My name is Latoya Chawayupira. I was formerly the math specialist at Forrester Elementary, and now I am the associate principal at Gom Elementary.
Hi there, Josh Coleman, formerly AP at Leon Springs Elementary, and now I am the AP at Henderson Elementary.
Good evening. I was serving AP at Henderson Elementary, and now I am the principal at Henderson.
Good evening. My name is Chaseley Southworth. I was formerly the principal at Blattman Elementary, and I now have the honor of opening Reed Elementary.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Larson. I'm a former fourth grade teacher at Beard Elementary and now the associate principal at Reed Elementary.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Lewis. I was formerly admin intern at Martin Elementary, and now I am assistant principal at Blattman Elementary.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Speakerman. I was formerly the AP at Blattman Elementary. I'm now the proud principal of Blattman Elementary.
Good evening, Kristen Montiano. I was previously the AP at Broccoli Elementary, and now I am the principal at Scobie Elementary.
Hi, good evening. I'm Christina Escarcega. I was formerly the associate principal at Bolt Elementary. I'm at Elliston Elementary.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Alvarez. I was formerly the admin intern at Cole Elementary, and now I am the associate principal at Driggers Elementary.
Hi, good evening. I'm Gabriela Trevino. I was formerly the administrative intern at John Glenn Elementary, and now I'm the associate principal at Timberwild Elementary.
Hello, I'm Brandon Tate. I was previously the admin intern at Rudder Middle School, and now I'm the AP at Stubing Elementary.
Good evening. I am Jennifer Costello, and I was previously the admin intern at Glass Elementary, and now I'm the associate principal at Boone Elementary.
Good evening. Formerly associate principal, Rogelio Villalobos, sorry. Formerly associate principal at Passmore, currently associate principal at Leon Springs.
Hello, good evening. My name is Vicki Kilpatrick. I was formerly the principal at Rhodes Elementary, and now I will be returning to McAndrew Elementary as the principal.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tawny Wagner. I'm the proud principal at McDermott Elementary, and I came from Carson Elementary.
Hi, I'll be kicking things off for the secondary side of the aisle. Randy Neuenfeld, formerly admin intern at Zachary Middle School. I am currently the assistant principal at Zachary Middle School.
I'm Matthew Patty. I was a coordinator in the academic technology department, and now I am the director of the Zachary Magnet School.
Hello, Jamie High. I was formerly the academic dean at Hobby Middle School, and I am now the director of Hobby Health Science Magnet School.
Good evening, Christina Laura, currently academic dean at Hobby Middle School, formerly assistant principal at Ross Middle School.
Hello, Veronica Poblano. I served at Vale Middle School as the academic dean, and now I'm the principal at Zachary and Zachary Magnet.
Good evening, I'm Genevieve Orozco. I'm the academic dean at Vale Middle School, formerly admin intern at Reddix, and split with Stevenson Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Daisy Ponce. I was previously the 504 and testing coordinator at O'Connor, and I'll be the assistant principal at O'Connor High School.
Good evening. My name is Brian Nutterback. I was the former department coordinator of social studies at Stevens High School. I'm the assistant principal at Sotomayor High School now.
Drew Harris. I was formerly a CTE teacher at Stevens, and I'll be an assistant principal at Brandeis High School.
Good evening. My name is Jeanette Rainey, and I was the CTE department coordinator at Brennan High School, and I'm the assistant principal at Stinson Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Ricky Seguidi, previously the associate principal at Harlan High School, and now the proud principal at Harlan High School.
Good evening. My name is Pete Brunetta. I was an assistant principal at Warren High School. I am now the associate principal at Harlan High School.
Good evening, Crystal Abney, former academic dean at John Jay High School, and now the associate principal at Health Careers High School.
Good evening, I'm Sheila Yeager. I was previously the associate principal at Sul Ross Middle School, and I am the proud principal of Northside Alternative Middle School.
Good evening, I'm Juan Carreño. I used to be the special ed campus coordinator at Holmes High School, and now I'm the assistant principal at Holmes High School.
Hi, I'm Lance Enderlin. I'm the former associate principal at Construction Careers Academy, and now I'm the principal at Construction Careers Academy.
Hello, my name is Krista Ackles, and I was the program coordinator at Construction Careers Academy, and now I'm the associate principal at Construction Careers Academy.
Good evening, I'm Gina Austin. I am formerly assistant principal at Bandera High School, and I am now the academic dean at Sotomayor High School.
Hi, my name is Liz Reed. I'm a former instructional coach from Jones Middle School and SSF at Rudder Middle School, and now I'm the academic dean at Stevenson Middle School.
I'm Jeanette Navarro, the former SSF at Rudder Middle School, now academic dean at Rudder Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Manuel Ayala. I was former teacher, assistant head football coach at Clark, now proud assistant principal at Harlan High School.
Good evening. My name is Ramses Escobedo. I was formerly the GT coordinator over at Brennan High School and now serving as an assistant principal at Harlan High School.
Good evening, Brandon Masters, former associate principal at Briscoe Middle School, now the proud principal at Rayburn Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Long. I was formerly the academic dean at Stevenson Middle School, and I'm currently the academic dean at John Jay High School.
Good evening. I'm Jody Noblet. I was formerly with SAISD and now the assistant principal at Northside Alternative High School.
Good evening. My name is Joe Bishop. I was formerly the assistant principal at Zachary Middle School, and I am now the proud associate principal at Briscoe Middle School.
Hi, I'm Lauren Gonzaba. I was the assistant principal at the Alternative High School, and now I'm the associate principal at the Alternative High School.
Hi, Miguel Treviño, formerly campus program coordinator at Marshall Law and Medical Services, now the proud assistant principal at Folks Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Richard Halley. I was a former associate principal at Taft High School, now the principal of Marshall High School.
Hello, Israel Perales. I was the admin intern at Ross Middle School. Now I'm the assistant principal at Taft High School.
Hello, Jennifer Rios, formerly assistant principal at Taft High School and now the associate principal at Taft High School.
Good evening, Aurelio Hernandez, former associate principal at Warren High School and now principal at Taft High School.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Mayfield, formerly assistant principal at Sotomayor High School, now associate principal at Warren High School.
Hello, my name is Linda Luna. I was the associate principal at John Jay Science and Engineering Academy, and I am now assistant principal at Sotomayor High School.
Good evening, Christina Lozano, formerly assistant at Rudder Middle School and now associate at Ross Middle School.
Good afternoon, Jason Padron, former boys head coach, now assistant principal at Ross Middle School.
Good evening, Jeremy Deck, formerly assistant director of maintenance and now director of plant maintenance.
Good evening, Mickey Hansen, formerly assistant director of maintenance and operations, now director of operations.
Hello, I'm Mary Garcia. I was formerly the nursing coordinator for health services. Now I'm the director of health services.
And there you have them. Mr. Blunt, Dr. Kraft, very efficient group. I think in about 14 minutes went through. Back to you, sir.
16:30, sir.
Okay, all right.
No, it's great to welcome you, like I say, all to your new positions. You're going to do great things for students, and really appreciate your hard work here, like I say, the last week and a half, 2 weeks, in preparing for really what's most important, bringing teachers back and welcoming them into the fold. So wish you all the very, very best. Just a show of hands real quickly, how many first-year administrators, campus administrators do we have? I know I saw, yeah, several. Absolutely. You'll always remember your first year as a campus administrator. Good, bad, mostly good. So congratulations, and like I say, welcome to the team. We look forward to a phenomenal year. And now, Mr. Blunt is going to actually recite everyone's name and position alphabetically.
And I'll do it backwards. Let me also extend our congratulations to each and every one of you. I know you don't often have a chance to attend a lot of board meetings, so I think we should take the opportunity to introduce ourselves so you sort of know our voices and who we are. So why don't we do that also as a board, and we'll start with Corinne. Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to see some of my former bosses in that audience, and I am a former Northside employee, so I know the hard work as a former administrator, and I'm retired now from public education. The hours, the tireless hours, and how you prioritize your school, and it's your family. And so I understand exactly the hard work that's ahead of you and that you've already given. And congratulations to all of you. I can't wait to visit your campuses and see all those shiny, bright, smiley faces and the students, right, when they come back. So thank you for all you do, and have a wonderful school year.
Now, don't forget your name.
Oh, hello. I'm Dr. Carla Duran.
Okay.
I'm Gerald Lopez, school board member since 2015, been on the board for 8 years. This will be my 9th year. And just like Carla said, and everybody else here that will say in the next few minutes, congratulations. We are here to support you. So don't hesitate to invite us to any of your events. We're open, and we like being included in your events that you have there with your campuses. So I throw that out there just to let you know we're available, or at least I am. I don't know about you.
We're all
I throw
available.
everybody else in there, but congratulations to everybody.
Okay. And David?
Yeah, my name is David Salcido. I'm the newly elected trustee for District 1. Congratulations to you all. I'm happy to see a lot of internal promotions. That's a good sign. You know, not too many from the outside, so that's one good thing. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Karen Freeman, first elected to the North Side Board in 2005. I had 4 children that started kindergarten here in North Side, and they all graduated here in North Side. You know, we live in the Helotes area and lived in another house about a little over a couple miles away because of changes in attendance zones and et cetera. My kids attended 6 schools. They're all gainfully employed. I'm extremely grateful to the opportunities that they had here in Northside. And thank you. Most of you have chosen to stay in Northside. We certainly appreciate that. And a couple of you who are from other districts, thanks for choosing Northside, and wish you a wonderful year.
I am Corinne Saldana, and I was a educator for 37 years, 33 in Northside. I came to the Promised Land as quickly as I could get here and spent all 33 years at Holmes High School. So I've been there. I support you. I know what it feels like to be a teacher, an academic dean, a principal. But you know what? If you have your heart in it and you're there for the kids, you're going to find that it's the best job you could have. It's going to be a tough job, but every day just tell yourself why you're there, and you will find that it won't be a job. It will be, I have to go to school. You know, I don't have to go to work. I have to go to school, or I have to do this for my kids. But we are so proud of you for taking the step to want to better our schools and better our kids. And for that, I commend you and congratulations. And I'm here to support you, speak for you, because I know what you go through. And so I try to represent each of you every time that we have any kind of discussion having to do with adding or taking away responsibilities. You know you have an ally here, so congratulations. And welcome to Northside, those of you who are brand new to our district.
Good. All right, and thank you, trustees. And again, I'm Bobby Blunt, been fortunate to be on the board since 1999. One key thing, I'm fortunate to be president this year, but one important thing I think hopefully you all know, this definitely is a team of 8, and it's a very, very well-balanced team of 8. And one thing that we all know is that you all are definitely the key. And that's something we always know in the forefront, and you've heard some of those comments along those particular lines. The other one I'll remember, I'll be a little bit repetitive with a couple other trustees stated, is please feel free, as appropriate, to invite us to those different activities and events that you think a trustee should be at. And important thing with it is all 7, plus the superintendent, actually would like to be invited. So sometimes some people think, hey, it's my area. That we don't think that way per se. We do service this whole district. So thank you all again, and congratulations. And anything further, Dr. Kraft?
Again, I just want to reiterate, you're very fortunate. We're very fortunate in this district to have a very, very supportive team of 8. And so you'll see trustees, if you haven't already, out and about on your campuses, and it's because they care. And they're not afraid to open ketchup packets and mustard packets and help as needed. Mr. Salcida, I think, was helping with some HVAC repairs earlier this week. So we truly are a team. But now, thank you in advance for the tremendous job you're going to do, and hope that you have a lot of enjoyable time ahead with welcoming teachers back. And let's make it a great year. We're very, very excited to start this year. And thank you again for being with us this evening. one rule of thumb, I don't know if Mr. Galindo mentioned, once you enter a board meeting, you have to stay for the entirety. Go home and get some rest. I know you've got a busy day tomorrow. Thank you again for being here.
So thank you all. All right, we'll give a little transition time.
Now, you are welcome to stay. You don't have to leave.
All right. Ready? Okay. We're ready, so we'll go ahead and we'll go into our business and finance area. All right. You can't hear us? Oh, did I miss one? Oh, I'm sorry. We do have one consent agenda item. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, we do. I'm sorry, y'all. We do have one consent agenda item. Dr. Kraft, who has that one? Second reading of.
It is, but this is actually the second reading for the TASB Update 121. So you've seen these policies. This is, again, on your consent agenda for your consideration of action and approval this evening, unless there's any questions.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Now have a motion. Trustee Freeman?
Mr. Blunt, I move approval of consent agenda item.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. Okay, we have moved to second. Any further discussion? Not moved to second that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? State nay. Good, thank you. Yeah, thanks for catching that. I mean, doing off on a consent agenda item. All right, so now we're going to business and finance.
Human resource, oh yeah, that's right.
Ready? Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm ready.
So obviously, we've been busy about putting together fiscal year 24 budget, and we'd like to propose this evening, August 22nd, as the public hearing and the date for the consideration of the budget as well as the tax rate. So with that being said, Dr. Barras, I don't know if you have anything we need to add.
No, just need the board to call for the public hearing to be held on August 22nd. Once that is done, a notice will go in the newspaper this Saturday, notifying the public of the time, the place, so on and so forth for the public hearing, as prescribed by law.
Okay, any comments, questions from the board? Trustee Freeman?
Every time at this meeting, I always make a request. I'm curious to know as to how much it costs to put that piece in the paper, as we are required to do so by law. You don't have to say it now, but if you would provide that, unless you know, but if you would provide that to us in Friday letter, I'm keeping track of that.
We will.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right, this one is scheduled for approval if the board so chooses. Is there a motion to come before the board?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate.
All right, have a second?
Second.
Second? All right. Moved and second. Any further discussion? All right, not moved and second that we approve the tax rate as discussed, as during the discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. All right, motion, go ahead and we'll pass that one too. All right, so next we'll go on our human resources area, and this will be our staffing update. And this one is scheduled for, this is discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, as Ben Muir is stepping to the podium. We just wanted to provide a quick update as to our efforts, and there really has been a full team effort for staffing. I would like to, again, just articulate appreciation for Ben and his team. They have been really working hard with alternative certification information, retiree hires, our hiring incentive program, and so, like I say, we've really been working to pull all the stops out, and they've been instrumental. Our campuses have also been working tremendously hard. As we were preparing to adjourn for summer break, I encouraged our campus principals in particular to really work hard early on in staffing, just knowing we were going to be facing shortages across the state, and they've really answered the call. So we're making some headway. We're not there yet, but the numbers are absolutely going in the right direction. So that being said, go ahead, Ben.
Appreciate it, Dr. Kraft, Mr. Blunt, and School Board. Appreciate being here tonight just to give you a brief update on our staffing. Mr. Salcedo, I know, really was super positive about those administrators and hiring from within, but I think what you saw with some of those administrators, special ed teachers, I know we had some bilingual teachers, so we're pulling some real key people out of the classrooms, but into real important positions. So, next slide, Monica. So this was just kind of an overview of where we sit as of noon yesterday. Just an overall kind of where we're sitting as far as our general ed, special ed, our bilingual ESL, math, science, and English, kind of the areas that we pretty much put the most focus to. Just to give you a little bit of history, and I shared this morning at Cabinet, towards the end of May, we were sitting at close to 600 vacancies in the teacher realm. So to get to where we're at today, to 223, and like Dr. Kraft said, we still have work to do, but we continue to trend in the right direction, and a lot of that has to do with some things, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's kind of where we're sitting right now, just a general overview. Next slide. This is also just kind of a big picture overview as far as by departments, as far as the classified auxiliary side. A couple of areas that I want to just kind of put a spotlight on. The instructional assistants, at one point during the summer, we were close to 200. So that's trending in the right direction. I think the other group that I really want to spotlight is our child nutrition department. Thomas Weary and his group do such an outstanding job. Job fairs, recruiting, and having that be a place that people really want to work into. So as you can see, for some of those, we've kind of stayed stagnant. I know with the police department, that 15's been a little bit too steady, but hopefully there'll be some solutions in the near future for that. But that's just a kind of a brief overview of those groups there. A little bit of hiring data. This was, like I said, as of noon yesterday, so I will tell you these numbers are a little bit low because they've gone up since then. But just, we're roughly at about 800 teachers that we've hired for this upcoming school year. 56 of those alternatively certified, 27 on the retire, rehire, and actually that's closer to 30 as of later today. And the thing I'm super positive about, and got to give a ton of credit to Kittia Johnson and her group, that subpool having 2,500 people in mirrors what it was last year, but that's about twice as many as we had 2 years ago when we had that sub shortage. So although 2,500 don't want to work every day, it's sure nice to have that availability of people that do want to work in the schools. So that 2,500, very, very happy about that.
Ben, if I may, and I know the question has been asked, of the 780, almost 800 teachers, I believe we're at 215 first-year new teachers.
Correct.
To the district.
Correct.
Which I know our Education Foundation was very interested in helping to support. Like I said, we've relayed that information to them.
And we continue to, we assume those numbers will continue to rise over the next couple weeks. So just want to spotlight a couple things here on the recruiting efforts. We had another alternative certification pathway night on July the 27th right here at NAC. We actually had 80 people show up, and quick story, and I shared this with Cabinet, had a young gentleman in HR yesterday fingerprinting, and he looked really familiar, so I stopped in, said hello, and I said, "Where have I seen you from?" He's like, "Oh, I came to that session y'all had at NAC." He said, "Somebody here from HR called and said I needed to fingerprint." And I said, "Well, that's a good sign." And he goes, so I said, "Have you been interviewing anywhere?" He's like, "Oh, yes, I had 3 or 4 interviews for a history teacher and a coach, and I'm so excited. Do you have any idea where I'm going to get hired?" And I said, "Well, let's fingerprint, Let's make sure you're all is good, and then somebody will call you with with an offer. Found out, and this is the piece that I didn't share this morning because I didn't know, that this young man is a 29-year-old attorney. Went to law school, practicing, and wants to teach. That put a little life into me yesterday, just how excited he was to think that he had a job. He was just fingerprint. I've never seen anybody so excited to fingerprint. So just something really, really positive. And we are getting candidates from that evening as we speak. The other piece that I put on here, and you can click and it'll have a little bit, but Joint Base San Antonio Career Summit. Every month I attend the San Antonio Chamber and Education group and got hooked in with one of the military recruiters who says, hey, we want you guys to show up. I said, we'd love to be there. So we got invited. We spent the first evening with a little mixer. So it was basically military members that are transitioning out along with their spouses and their kids. So these are people that are some are here in San Antonio, some are not, and they're coming to San Antonio and they're looking for work. A lot of them came over and said, what's an ISD? And then tell me about the types of jobs that you have. So they had no idea all the different jobs that we hired. So a great connection. The second day was an actual career fair where there were companies, there were 4 school districts there being one. And I think it was such a positive connection that Lackland approached me at the end and said, hey, we're having something in October. We'd love to have you come out. So I'm not sure what we're going to get out of there. I know we've gotten some retired people that want to come in and sub, want to see what it's like to be a teacher. We've got spouses who are looking for secretarial jobs, kids whose parents are saying, these kids need to work. What can you find for them? So I think it's just another avenue that opened for us. And then the last 3 that I really want to thank Barry and Christina Eckert. And as you get daily emails about the things that are happening in Northside and the reasons that you need to come work, I think that has really been a game changer for us in seeing our numbers come down. And I thank this group for supporting that effort. And like I said, the marketing department has been absolutely outstanding, and we will continue those efforts as long as we can to make sure that we are as close to fully staffed before the school year starts. And our last slide is, that's our deadline, that's our bullseye. It's been our bullseye since the beginning, the 28th. That's when kids come to school. I know yesterday spent a little time at Westwood Terrace, lost about 3 pounds before I left, but besides that, to see the kids, to see the families, and to see the excitement of the teachers. Westwood Terrace and Cable, the 2 campuses that started yesterday, are fully staffed. Fully staffed. And our goal is to have the rest of the schools that way. So the key here is I want to thank you guys again for your support throughout. And I know we've got some visions down the line that will come to you as well to hopefully kind of close that gap on our special ed teacher group.
Is there any way you could share with us, like, that last slide so we can share it on our social media? Like, the efforts, like the referral bonus, et cetera? Because I know we have a lot of constituents that follow
Sure.
us, so we can kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure we can.
We can provide some marketing material.
Yes.
Yeah, just like a social media post we can blast.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Bobby. Ben, thank you very much for your efforts. Thank you to you and your team. I know this was a big task. It is for everybody, for every school district. But I really like how you're really out there engaging the community. With this GBSA Career Summit, we've got to be out there, right? You're targeting a group of individuals that will eventually, retire, but then looking for a second job, right, or to continue working. So I love that. I think that's great that you're doing that. Thank you to you and your team. I'm curious to know, do we know how many referrals or how many payments of those $300 that we've made? I'm just curious. It doesn't have to be an exact number.
So for instance, we've had some groups that have been doing the referral for a while. transportation, child nutrition, learning tree just started, custodial maintenance. They've been doing that for a long time. So we added this new group officially last Monday. So when we call and make a job offer, first question we ask after they, of course, say yes to us, is we ask them if anybody referred them. And then we track them. So as of this afternoon, we had roughly 20 within the HR department, within the professional side and the classified auxiliary side that we hire. We've had 20 referrals.
Yeah, and the only reason is because I wasn't sure if there was a criteria that said, well, no, I think you mentioned it, there had to be a criteria or something that, you know.
So it's a 90-day.
Okay.
They've got to, so whoever is referred and we hire, at 90 days, we're going to check, do they still work for us? Yes. Does the person that referred them still work for us? Yes. Referral goes to that person.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much. I appreciate it for what you've been doing. And Renee, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to collect on that 300, on that referral. Just kidding. Thank you.
It doesn't apply to individuals in direct hiring authority. Sorry, Ben.
No, I was made
There's
very well
an inside
aware.
joke to that. That's
Yeah,
why.
I got it.
Any other comments, questions from the board? I just have one quick question. Historically, does Troop to Teachers still exist as a formal initiative?
I believe it does. I can't speak to it.
I don't believe it formally exists, although I know that we try to establish that open door in communication efforts, but the formal program, I believe, was concluded, I want to say about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
We can double check.
No, I just hadn't heard
But
about
it was a helpful program, particularly for communities that serve a large military population. And one of the other things too is we have a little bit of leadway now with teacher certifications with this reciprocity, that we're also going to be looking at where we can bring individuals out of state and get them Texas certified much more expeditiously.
Correct.
Good.
I got a question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
The retiree hire, is that for just teachers? Is that for any position in
So
the district?
as of right now, it's for teachers.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Ben.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you, guys.
Thanks for the
Appreciate it.
continual good news. Thank you. All right, so next we have our first reading of AF local.
Actually,
Did I miss again? I keep missing things today. I'm trying to, nothing to do with time.
So Mr. Glendo is going to take you through your student code of conduct. Student code of conduct does require board consideration approval. And then this is embedded actually in, I believe, Section C of our student handbooks, which the department is in the process, actually several departments are in the process of updating as we speak. So Mr. Glendo will talk through the big changes associated with the student code of conduct.
right, so thank you, Dr. Kraft. And yes, there's multiple departments and a number of different sections to the student handbook. And so tonight we bring student code of conduct for your approval. And rather than put it on the consent agenda, which we've done in the past, there are 2 items, and put this in Friday letter for you, of discussion that we thought we'd bring to you prior to asking for that approval. One of them came up through our policy committee discussions and dialogues, and it deals with cell phone usage for students. The other one, though, and that one I think is pretty significant that you as trustees probably have heard and will hear more of, deals with vaping. And so want to speak to what the change in legislation is there, what we're going to do to mitigate, and what our game plan is in terms of moving forward with the 23-24 school year. So rather than me go through a lot of numbers in detail, I've asked one of our resident expert, I should say, from our Office of Student Advocacy and School Choice, our Chief Hearing Officer, Ms. Tracy Meredith, to kind of talk through those 2 items. Again, one a little more minor than the other, but if we will, yes, thank you. So Tracy, if you will, take it from here.
Thank you, Mr. Galindo, Dr. Kraft, Mr. Blunt, trustees. I'm so grateful to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you. So I'll start with the Student Code of Conduct as it relates to acceptable use policy and cell phone usage. There really isn't any change in the policy itself. After the policy committee meeting, we were prompted to amend the AUP so that it aligned with local board policy as it speaks to cell phone usage on campuses, and that policy is FNCE. So really all we did was change some language in the AUP so they are aligned and it speaks to students using cell phones on the campus. So what that policy says is that students can have their cell phones on the campus. They use them as guided by the classroom teacher. And the teacher can, at some point, confiscate that device if the teacher learns the student is using it in violation of AUP. So that's essentially what that policy says. And now our acceptable use policy is aligned with that. So there's been no change in the policy, okay? House Bill 114, that is going to create some significant changes for student advocacy and school choice and how we deal with vaping, felony drugs, and alcohol. So it's creating some recategorizing, if you will, of certain offenses. Specifically, it speaks to students who have e-cigarettes and electronic vapes. Districts are now required by law to have a discipline hearing for all students who are found in possession of, using, or under the influence of any kind of vape. That includes nicotine, CBD, and liquid THC. So there's really no discretion at this point about what we do with discretionary vapes. We don't have that any longer. It's a mandatory hearing. Okay, and with regards to felony drugs and alcohol, those offenses have been removed from mandatory expulsion. So now those become a lesser category and discretionary offenses. And just those two bullets alone, those are going to essentially overwhelm and overcrowd our DAEPs pretty quickly because we are going to do a phenomenal number of hearings bringing in all of those offenses that include nicotine and CBD. Those weren't coming for hearings last year. I anticipate we're going to have right about 1,000 additional offenses that must come to hearing. That's a lot. And we, at this point, at SASE, we're just not set up for that. We don't have the manpower for that. We are in dire straits, and we desperately need another hearing officer so that we can conduct those hearings as we're being told we have to and satisfy that legislative requirement. We are down a man, and it's been very difficult to keep our heads above water. And now we have this new legislation, which means it's going to be overwhelming.
Is the consequence different?
I'm so sorry.
Are the consequences different?
Yes, there are some differences in the consequences. While those felony drugs and alcohol used to be mandatory expulsions, we now have the ability to look at mitigating factors. Okay, if the student is found in violation of that offense, we have to consider some factors when we're deciding what's an appropriate consequence for that kid, and it may not be expulsion. I'm going to look at that case by case by case, and that kid in particular. Is it a first-time offender? What's that student's discipline history look like? And I'm going to also communicate with the campus principal to see what that person recommends for this kiddo as a best interest way of handling this situation.
My question is really in regards to the vaping. So because they're having a hearing, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be placed in DAEP, or it doesn't.
It does not. Again, now we can look at mitigating factors in those cases, and of course we would consider student individually, what the student's discipline history looks like. Is it his or her first time? And again, what does the principal have to say about what an appropriate consequence would be for that kiddo? So it doesn't, while it's mandatory, we have to have the hearing, we don't have to place in DAEP.
Right. And then also, my follow-up question is, they can still be tried for their felony or whatever through the judicial system separately. We're just talking about in-house right now.
Right. We're just talking about the educational side of it. I understand that there's a criminal piece to that, and sometimes they move forward with charges, sometimes they don't. Right. So they'll deal with that totally separate and apart from us.
So,
We've already, if I may.
Yes, sir.
We've already visited with our campus principals, particularly at the secondary level, but really all levels, as you can see with the numbers. And we're preparing for particularly first offenders and vape-related discipline infractions. We've already checked with council. We do have the ability to have a DAP, alternative education placement program, at the individual campuses. Because you can see very clearly with the numbers, they're astounding. We will fill up a traditional DAP program very, very quickly. And so we're working to create a first offenders program that would include some parental education as well as student education before there's a second offense. Now, the second offense would result in a longer, obviously, DAP placement to our traditional DAP. But like I say, this is a pretty significant change that we're trying to be as proactive as we possibly can as we begin to start the school year, because we recognize this is a prevalent challenge issue across the district, just in looking at the numbers. And now with Senate Bill 114 going into place, that's also going to be challenging. In regards to hearings, I know that that's going to be also a challenge. We do have the ability, the board has the ability to approve alternate district hearing officers. And so the 22nd, you can anticipate we'll probably be bringing forward a list of hearing officers for your consideration. They have to be board approved. So that, like I say, we can handle volume if necessary. Because, like I say, we don't want to create a logjam or backup, particularly for these vape cases, disciplinary cases. So more to come in that regard.
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Kraft. Two quick points. So in regard to, as Dr. Kraft just said, we've already are underway as far as identifying folks that, administrators, that with your approval can support in that regard for next year. And then the last bullet on there, which Tracy spoke to, and which I'm proud to say we were proactive at the middle school, and you'll see Second Chance Academy. And what that means is, as Dr. Kraft just described, we already this past year piloted a program with middle school students that if a student had a clean record, never been in trouble before, and it was the first offense, vape-related, then rather than be punitive, what we did is we actually got the parent involved, went to, other than the DAP, to a different location, which last year was at Conley. We had guest speakers, we had counselors involved, the parents were involved, and so took more of an educational approach rather than punitive with those kids. And so similar to that now with high school this year, if we have a first-time offender that has a clean record that we think should be considered for, in concept, the same type of a program, then that's what we will do at the campus rather than go to DAP and try to mitigate and not have those, that dramatic increase in number that we could possibly have at our alternative school. So that's one way that we think now at the secondary, like we did at middle school, or at the high school, I should say, like we did at the middle school, that we can control some of those numbers. And I think she has some data to kind of illustrate just how bad it is.
And let me, Trustee Lopez, do you want to go now or wait? You got your question? Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Falconberry. So here's some data Mr. Galindo and I pulled together for you. Up at the top of that slide, it tells you the number of students assigned to the DAEP this past school year, 2022-23. We've broken that down into high school and middle school. And then we've broken that down into, of those students placed in that alternative setting, how many of those were for vaping alone? And in both situations, in both cases there, those were over half of the students placed, it was for vaping. At the bottom of that slide, we also have numbers of hearings in total conducted at each grade level. And of those, how many of those were for vaping? So this year alone, at all levels, we conducted 2,500 hearings. Of those, 1,405 were for vaping. So that's more than half of that total number. So that kind of helps you connect the dots as to what we're dealing with regards to the vaping. It is all over the place, and it is at all levels.
And it takes so much time from the administration to do the investigation, to do the referral, to then they have to sit in the hearing along with you, and it takes away from instructional coaching and things that need to happen on campus. It's just really a hot mess when it comes to vaping.
There's a lot going on with that right now. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Falconberry, next slide, please. And this slide will show you some data from the Bexar County Juvenile Justice Academy. And it will kind of discern for you costs for those discretionary cases and then the numbers for discretionary and mandatory. Just so that you understand, the mandatory placements are those that the state says must be mandatory expulsions. The state picks up the tab for those. Now we're going to have a whole lot more discretionary placements. Okay, those are the ones that we're going to pick up the tab for, and there's going to be a big, big increase in that number, in the number of hearings and in the costs associated with those placements at JJA.
I know, did y'all have a question now, or do you want to wait till? Yeah, go ahead, Trustee Freeman.
I could wait to the end, but one question, and Bobby, this may be for you, concerning maybe the Bexar County Coalition can help. We have some media outlets that are publicizing various things that are happening at schools. I wonder if we can give them some information to help us get this information out in the public, such that parents understand the new law regarding vaping and the consequences for the kids, and perhaps they will understand. It's not just the school district. There's laws involved here. So I wonder how they can help us with media. Just curious.
We can definitely work to help push the messaging. We've talked about a big education campaign, and we'll talk a bit more about school safety and including it. But you're exactly right. We do need parents to understand that the laws have changed, and so will consequences as a result. And it's not just being viewed as your tobacco now. I mean, it's carrying a serious, serious consequence, particularly if it is THC infused.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, but I'll wait till she gets done.
Okay, so we'll go, you'll be next and then, at the end. Yeah, right when she finished. Right when you finish, you got two trustees waiting.
I'm so sorry. I told Mr. Galindo I probably have a lot to say about this. I can tell you that at this point in the year, I know that we haven't even started the school year, but we have already gotten 10 hearings on the schedule in August for vaping incidents that have occurred on the campus in the last 3 or 4 days. Because kiddos are there now for cheerleader and band and soccer, and they are there with liquid THC, they are there with weed, they are there with marijuana edibles. All of those things are currently scheduled and on the calendar already. And we haven't even started school.
Okay. All right, Trustee Lopez.
Thank you very much, Ms. Meredith. I have a question regarding can you explain to me the system? Let's say, so a student gets caught, if you can walk me through the system. A student gets caught with a vape pen. What happens then? If you can explain to me the process and kind of walk me through that.
Certainly. At the point the student is caught with a device, the administration on the campus and the officer on the campus make contact with that student. They retrieve that device and then move forward with some testing to determine what we have. Do we have liquid THC? Do we have CBD? Is it nicotine? That's the first thing we need to know so we know how to move forward. And once we know what we have, we can go ahead and schedule a hearing accordingly based on what they find. The officers will decide how they want to move forward with the legal piece of it. Sure. We then move forward on the educational side with the student discipline hearing, just depending on what that substance was.
Okay, so when you say a hearing, is that an internal hearing, or is that's through our administration, a hearing?
Right, so what we do is schedule a hearing with the parent, with the student, with the administrator, and any special education folks, if that needs to be a part of the hearing. Those hearings are held by Zoom. Unless the parent asks for them to be held in person, we accommodate that. They come to our office. We all gather in a conference room, and the administration presents their evidence regarding their investigation. And then the student and the family also have an opportunity to share their version of events. And I hear both sides, determine if I have a preponderance of evidence to support that the offense occurred. If I do, then I make a determination about what's an appropriate consequence for the kiddo.
Okay, and that's there at the campus. Is there you said there was a counselor. Is there a drug use counselor that's available for that during that hearing, or is it just a
Not
regular
during the
counselor?
hearing, sir.
No? Okay.
No, sir.
And then, so after that hearing and after it's discussed, then a punishment, or not a punishment, I don't want to say, but what's the next process after that?
Right, so depending on the determination of an appropriate consequence, either we're going to go to the alternative school or we're looking at expulsion. If I don't find I have enough evidence, I remand them back to campus.
Okay.
But in either situation, I explain to the student and the family what that means. If we're looking at placement in an alternative setting, then I make sure I go over with them where that's going to be, when that's going to start, and for how many days, and what those days are going to look like for that student while they're in that placement. How do they have successful days so that they can transition back to their home campus?
So at what point in this, where it has gone from our control or in our system, at what point is it that it goes to a JP court or a district court? What level is that? Where is that at, and where does that play when it comes to a hearing or something to that effect?
So that comes into play when the officer who is involved in the case determines whether or not they have enough evidence to move forward with legal charges. And we don't have any say in that. So we usually learn from that officer whether or not they're going to move forward with the charges, take the child into custody, or file at large.
Right, okay. And the police department or the police department makes that determination based on law as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
John, on this one, the reason why I was asking that question was because I've gotten a request from one of our JP judges, Precinct 1, Judge Sylvia Ruiz. She has been working with or is trying to collaborate with the school district, specifically Northside, in one of our departments, in order to say, hey, look, I'm seeing the kids come to my court. I'm handing them a sentence. Not that she's trying to be lenient, but what she's saying is she's wanting to make sure that the sentence that she gives is one of meaning instead of, hey, you know what, you're going to go and get 25 hours of cleaning up a highway. And so what her strategy has been to say, okay, Mom and Dad, you're here. I'm going to sentence your son to, and she'll ask him, she'll say, what class are you failing? And they'll tell her, I'm failing a history. Okay, your sentence is going to be to get tutoring for that summer, for that history class. And so that was their sentence, and that was mandated by the judge to go in there and make sure that they attended, and she made a schedule, and they reported to her. So those are the type of things that our community is looking at, especially our judges, in trying to help and partner with when it comes to those type of cases that does go to court, and so they're looking at ways to try to where, yes, they're trying to make it meaningful. And so I was going to ask you if this would be an opportunity where you, Meredith, if this would be an opportunity for us as a district, along with the police department, to partner with some of our court systems, and one as an educational piece, but two as a way of trying to work with the kids and involving that system, because the court system is asking to be a part of it, and I'm just seeing this as a great opportunity to look at that in a partnership.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think that there's definitely the ability to have the conversation.
Sure.
And to look at collaborative efforts. One of the things, though, and I'll use the tutorials as an example, that we want to be really careful of, though, and let's just say it's 20 or 25 hours of tutorials for geometry. I want to make sure that we're not overburdening our geometry teachers or the individual teachers to help the student carry out the sentence, because as you can imagine, that would be in essence just adding one more thing to our teachers' plates, and so we just got to be careful and diligent in our efforts to, like I say, not add more to our teachers' plate.
I agree.
But no, I think that trying to look at creative ways, whether it be helping to clean up campuses and various activities, I think
Yeah.
open to the conversation.
One of the main thing is that how could she help the child succeed academically? She thought that the cleaning up of highways and stuff like that didn't really mean anything to them. They weren't, but to help them see, with their tutoring, right? That's a meaningful plus, right? Because that student was lacking, and there was some success stories on that. So I would encourage us to look at that. And based on your recommendation, John, and just maybe a consideration or a talk to, and maybe see what we can come up with as a strategy, because I think that would be good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Trustee Sadani?
I have a couple of questions, but one of them is going back to what Gerald said. As a high school teacher and administrator, we have to be careful that if kids get caught with drugs, sending them back into the classroom because they're going to do their punishment after school. Most of the kids don't know that the punishment is going to be after school. So they're going to feel like, oh, they didn't even do anything to him. He's back in the classroom. He got suspended yesterday and he's back. Or 2 days later or whatever. So I think we have to be real careful that we don't give the impression to our students that there is no penalty, that you get to come back into the classroom. So I think we need to be careful when we talk about that. But secondly, what are we doing, and this is for you and senior staff, what are we doing now before school starts to make sure that our students know that there have been changes in the law and that we're going to attack this vaping situation because it is a problem and we're going to focus on it this year? So what are we doing to let the kids know before school starts that this is going to be a focus this year and that the rules are going to be a little bit tougher when it comes to them getting caught vaping?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we're going to have to attack it head on. Let me answer the first piece of the first question in regards to disciplinary consequences. A DAP placement is going to have to constitute or be constituted of a alternative placement. So the students will not be able to, even if it's a first offender type program, just go back into the classroom. It has to be an alternate setting, similar to an in-school suspension, even as a first offender program. The second piece to this, though, is much larger, obviously. We talked about the education campaign. We're going to, like I say, present some information in and around school safety that we're going to be launching tomorrow, and then, like I say, working on the education for parents and for community members. Students, we're asking our campus principals, requiring our campus principals to include this in their beginning of year student assemblies, explaining the consequences associated with vaping. We're running a pilot program. I believe we're going to test a vape detection system that we're going to be placing in various restrooms. It's a pilot program this coming fall, because I believe that would be a real deterrent. But we want to make sure that it works and that the communication relay is in place. So we're going to have to, like I say, approach vape, because it is very prevalent. You can see it in the numbers very aggressively, and we're going to have to attack it head on. Unfortunately, I do anticipate that there will probably be an uptick in alternative disciplinary hearings as well as placements this fall semester.
Bobby, I would also like to suggest that when we have our beginning of the year Bear County Coalition meeting, that we address the issue with all our Bear County school districts and try to get it on TV stations, so that parents can hear, just like they're doing right now with the fentanyl. We need to ask them to do community service announcements regarding the vaping and what parents can look for. What are the clues that kids give when they start using drugs like this? So I would like to suggest that we bring that up with the Bear County Coalition.
I agree, and we'll definitely do that. Matter of fact, I'll see if I can get everybody together within the next week or two to have that dialogue, because this is a biggie, and we do have some media attention right now. We can get to outside. Northside Communications is going to take care of things, no doubt in that regard, but it would also just enhance. So yeah, I agree. Trustee Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Dr. Kraft, I appreciate your comment about overburdening our teachers when we talk about the suggestion that was made by a judge regarding tutoring. But I also don't look at tutoring as a disciplinary action. So I want us to be careful when we talk about partnering with any of our judicial system, that we actually talk about appropriate measures. I'm just not sure tutoring might be the right.
I think that's a great point. I mean, we want the students to be intrinsically motivated to want to be successful in their academic studies, and I agree. We need to be careful about a mandated tutorial because that's a surefire way to really turn a student off to.
Well, because and all kids that are having some challenges with anything ought to have access to that same tutoring.
Correct.
And they shouldn't have to be vaping to have connection.
Be serving a disciplinary
Yes.
consequence.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
The capacity, I know that you're going to be overwhelmed as a hearing officer, but also, where would all these kids go? Like, there's the room, the space, right? The building.
Right, so yeah, the alternative settings are going to get full quickly. And I know Mr. Galindo referenced how we intend to, try to tackle that with having some of those students have the ability to do their time in ISS. I will tell you that we know that at the point the alternative settings reach their capacity, House Bill 114 also gives us the discretion to exchange out students, if you will, in that placement, so that we don't have violent offenders on the campus. So if we have violent offenders and someone with a vape, this kid with a vape is going to do their time on the campus, so that we can maintain violent offenders in that setting. So we do have that ability to exchange, if you will, and I think that would be kept to a minimum, if at all possible. I just think they're going to get very full very fast.
We'll just have to, Dr. Duran, have to monitor the numbers, and we hope to avoid that as much as possible. And we think through the first-time offender, that type of mitigation will hopefully control the numbers and keep our capacity reasonable at our schools.
Okay, any other on this part? Just one other data, I know you had a little bit more on the subject, but it'd be interesting to see when we can see the data next year, and that may take 2 years, but a year, to see if there's actually a change in the disciplinary data from a demographic and a geographic standpoint, because it's been pretty consistent, the disparity, where it occurs. This may shift things over quite a bit, so it'd be just interesting to see if that changes also in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Noted. So we do ask for approval then for the student code of conduct for tonight.
And the other reason why we had this brought forth, in addition to these very important two subject matters that we've had, was just in case any trustees had any questions just in general about our school, our student code of conduct, and just in general about why we're approving as a board or anything like that. Is everybody good on that part? Okay, everybody's good. All right, we didn't need that part then. All right. So, but this can be scheduled for action if the board so chooses to approve this overall student code of conduct.
Trying to think of what the motion, I move to approve the student code of conduct as is presented.
All right, thank you all. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the student code of conduct as discussed. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, state nay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Thursday.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go to the one I went to earlier. First reading of AF local policy.
Yes, sir. So this is first reading, and I believe it actually may have gone through academics, but this, in essence, really just, it's literally a one-sentence policy that codifies, if you will, the fact that Northside now is a district of innovation, and so it formally makes it official, and really that is the extent of that. So this is first reading, and we'll put it under consent for next, and will be official.
All right, so if anybody has any comments or questions in advance, please forward those over. But meanwhile, we'll see it on consent next time. Okay, good. Anything else on that? Okay, go ahead. We'll move over to our school safety update.
Yes, sir, members of the board, Mr. President, members of the board, we felt like that it would be timely to present kind of an overview of some of the things that we are proposing to do from a school safety standpoint. And I think we've got a one sheet overview that I'm going to talk through some of the newer initiatives, in particular in and around House Bill 3, and then some of the things that obviously we're going to continue with from a best practice standpoint. As I mentioned, one of our initiatives is to really launch. We recorded a public service announcement today at the TV studio, and then really launch a pretty district-wide campaign effort to just inform parents as to what to expect this upcoming school year. So again, with routine door checks, we will continue to make sure that particularly exterior doors are checked on a daily basis. They're locked. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think you have
Everybody knows it's in the
one sheet.
folder.
And like I say, we'll be distributing this information as early tomorrow unless there are any questions or concerns or suggestions. So the campus administration, like I say, will continue the door checks. Of course, reporting any hardware that may be malfunctioning or not locking appropriately. And I anticipate that we'll continue to be audited as well from the Texas School Safety Center and or another state entity. One of the changes is the SRP, or Standard Response Protocol language. We're really working diligently with our partners in particularly San Antonio, Bexar County, and law enforcement to have very, very streamlined language in the event that we go into a lockdown situation, a hold situation, a secure situation. And so, like I say, we've been working with campus administration on that professional development and training so that they're communicating with their staff. You're all familiar with the mental health support that we're going to continue, of course, being one of our district goals and initiatives with District Goal 4. We're going to continue to work to not only expand these programs, extend these programs, but also communicate to particularly students and parents of the available resources that they have at their fingertips. One of the changes, we are numbering our exterior doors. This is actually outlined in legislation as well, new legislation as well. This is for emergency response, and so all of our doors have been numbered. We are requiring all high school students across all of our high schools to wear visible ID badges along with staff.
And how are we going to,
Yeah.
how are we going to enforce that in high school?
Well, so it's going to be a disciplinary consequence. And like I say, with it being required and being communicated, I know that there's the concern, well, they won't wear them. And Ms. Saldana, with all due respect, I have been associated with a number of high schools, and it is just a requirement. One of the things that we need to be able to do, and our campus administrators need to be able to do, is quickly identify if an individual is not supposed to be on the campus. Particularly with some of our campuses, Holmes High School being more of an open campus, our campus administrators need to be able to quickly identify this is not a student and this is an individual that does not need to be on our campus. You've heard the vaping numbers. I think that this can go a long way in helping us patrol, like I say, non-campus visitors.
To enforce it, oh, you're not a student here, we need to take you, we need to get the police to escort you off campus.
They can't pick
Precisely, yeah.
I'm sorry. Our administrators can say, oh, you're not wearing an ID, you're not a student here. Let's get the police officer to escort you off campus, and maybe then we can get high school seniors to wear IDs.
Precisely. And so, like I say, this will be outlined as an expectation in student assemblies, communicated with parents. This is also in addition to our staff need to be wearing IDs. We need to be able to identify very quickly adults that are supposed to be on the campus and those that are not. Of course, visitors going through the front office with visitor ID badges and checks through our Raptor system as well. So that's a change. The additional police officers, we do have over 100 allocations actually in our police department. And I've had the opportunity to really see what our police department is capable of, and it is impressive. That being said, with the school safety allotment in House Bill 3, we're going to be bringing forward a request for an additional 20 officers on the 22nd, again, using the newly funded school safety funding, $15,000 per campus and $18 per ADA, to basically be able to help cover our elementary campuses. So currently our plan is to continue to have two police officers at our high schools, one at our middle school, and then creating a rotation so that we are making contact, our police officers are making contact with every elementary campus across the district on a daily basis. We feel like that in doing so, and it will be more of a random basis throughout the day, we're going to be more closely in adherence with House Bill 3. And so I'll talk a little bit more about House Bill 3 implementation here momentarily. The silent panic alert technology, this is going to be equipped across every campus. This allows, in essence, communication directly with law enforcement, but also locking down the campus. We feel like that it's important to be able to communicate to outside entities, our police department, et cetera, in seconds. And so this technology has been installed and will be, like I say, implemented this upcoming school year. Some of the initiatives in progress we've mentioned already, but bullet-resistant film on exterior windows and doors, the use of vape sensors, like I say, we do and will be piloting vape sensors this fall with the intention to expand across really our high schools, but also middle schools and particularly some of our restroom facilities. We will be randomly implementing deploying metal detectors, particularly at some of our special events, athletic events. We feel like that we have a system that can pretty rapidly, quickly process large groups of individuals. And so, like I say, this is more of a deterrent than it is anything else. And then, of course, audible alarms on campus exterior doors. The audible alarms basically notify individuals that a door has either been left open, propped open, is not operating appropriately, and so it brings attention alert to come and close a door. As you can imagine, across some of our larger campuses in particular, there are a lot of exterior doors, and so we need to try to be really diligent in keeping them locked and closed. If you flip it over, we are obviously making a concerted effort. It is really about, like I say, the individuals and a team effort. And so, again, our police officers, men and women, are committed to this effort. They're trained. Particularly our patrol vehicles are very, very well equipped, and appreciate the board's support in that effort. We are looking at potentially adding another canine officer and dog, obviously, canine. Our district campus threat assessment teams, I've mentioned the officers, like I say, 2 at high schools, 1 at every middle school, and then again, the additional officers that I'm going to be bringing forward on the 22nd for your consideration to be able to create the rotations. I really think that it's important that as we look at the armed security officer piece, that we're doing so very intentionally. I firmly believe that having a commissioned peace officer who is truly trained to provide that safe environment is really, really important. And I know that there's going to be various solutions, whether it be a guardian program, a marshal program, arming staff, et cetera, that are going to be solutions, options that are going to be discussed. And I'm just a real proponent of our commissioned police officers with their expert training, their ability to respond, particularly to any critical incident, and going forward. So like I say, we'll be communicating this here in the coming days. I mentioned facilities and technology. If you haven't had the opportunity to see our communication center and our police department, it is quite impressive. In fact, we had Representative Garcia out just last week, and she even indicated this is truly state-of-the-art and what all police departments need to be. This is the model, in essence. It's a very high-tech system with, I believe, right at about 8,000 different cameras that are more, 9,000, 10,000. A lot of cameras. Covering the 367 square miles of the district. But more importantly, it allows direct communication with officers through our body cams, which all officers are equipped with, and then also to be able to dispatch and respond to situations very, very quickly, as well as put eyes on those situations, obviously.
24 hours a day?
24/7. Yes, ma'am. That's a great point. Holidays included. Like I say, it is a impressive communication dispatch center. And then, of course, making sure that our campuses, and particularly our campus staff, are trained to respond to these incidents. This is a big part of, again, the team effort. I know our campus administrators are preparing for, like I say, staff and teachers to come back, and this is going to be a top priority, the top priority. We need to make sure, particularly with the new SRP protocol, that we're all on the same page and prepared to respond accordingly. So again, those are just a few of the initiatives. I did want to just bring to light some numbers. We anticipate this budget, we're proposing with the additional officers that we'll be spending a little over $12 million in just school safety initiatives from our general operating budget. Now, that's not to include the $18+ million in facility upgrades, security vestibules, et cetera, that have been included and been passed by the community for the 2022 bond. In fact, if you look at some of the spending since the 2004 bond program, the district has committed almost $60 million directly to school safety and school safety upgrades. And so we're going to continue our efforts in ensuring that our campuses are as safe as we can possibly make them for our students, our staff, and, like I say, our community at large. So with that being said, like I say, we are planning to launch the public service announcement, the update to our community, to our parents, making sure that they're aware, like I say, of some of the important matters to include vape, the consequences associated with vape, identification badges, and some of the, like I say, new protocol that we're going to be putting in place to ensure we start the school year safe this year.
Trustee Lopez?
Thank you, Bobby. Dr. Kraft, real quick, when we talked about earlier, you talked about the mandatory student ID at the campus.
High school
all
campuses,
high school
yes, sir.
campuses. Is, we talk about enforcement, which is what Trustee Saldana was saying. Is that going to be included in the code of conduct as to one of the things that the high school students would need to follow, and it's stated clearly in the code of conduct? Is that?
Yeah, so absolutely, that's a great question. If a student does not or refuses to wear an ID, a visible ID, it's simple insubordination. So that is a requirement. Campus administration, teachers, they have the ability to enforce. Like I say, if a student refuses, it's insubordination.
But that's not in the school.
If we've written it into the student code of conduct, updated it specifically.
I believe we have, and if not, Mr. Lopez, certainly that's part of it. And, as you know, there's about 30, 40 pages of, student code of conduct, including insubordination, as Dr. Kraft just pointed out. So that being the fact that they cover it at, the assemblies before the school year starts, in fact, we're communicating already, they will know that it is expected, and there will be consequences. And so, to your point, yes, we'll ensure that it is in writing.
Okay, yeah, because, we may have some challenges.
Oh, we
with
will.
that. And just so that way, it's like, hey, guys, it's in the book.
Right.
It says it here. Did you read it, Mom and Dad? Things like that, that's all. Yes. So, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and just for clarification, this is purely for identification, personal identification.
Right,
We want to make
but it-
sure the students are supposed to be on the campus, or the individuals are supposed to be on the campus with a valid ID. So this is not a RFID tracking at all.
Right. No.
This is
I'm not
purely identification.
concerned about that. It's just that if we're gonna punish the child for not having the ID, just like we would punish a child for having holes in their pants, right? I'm just using it as an example.
Precisely. Yeah.
That's just, a parent is probably gonna say, well, you know what, he forgot it, and I tried to get it, but why are you punishing it? It never used to be an issue before, and
that's a great
all that
point.
is just
So
it's
the-
just an example.
If the student forgets their ID, they'll have the ability to be issued a temporary ID. Because we all make mistakes. I'm sure
Right.
as adults, we sometimes forget our ID at the house. That's a little bit different scenario than an individual who's repeatedly just refusing to wear an ID.
Right, got it. I
But the
understand.
discretion falls on the campus leaders or local policy, just like a uniform. Do we want uniforms? Do we want clear backpacks? Like, each school leader can decide their campus culture, and I think that's the caveat. They get to, this is gonna be now enforced as a district, right? But they always have the discretion also on their local campus with certain things, the flexibility. So I guess that's the other.
So you bring up a good point, Doctor. I guess then it becomes, so this is, like you said, a campus-wide policy.
For our
not a
high school
district-wide,
students, for our
but
high
not
school
a
students,
district.
the expectation is that all students are going to be wearing IDs.
At the campus.
Yes, sir.
So let's say we have one campus that an administrator saying, hey, well, I'm not really concerned. I know Johnny. I see him all the time. I've known Johnny when he was in elementary school. So if we have, I guess, my concern is, one, do we run into an inconsistent policy or an inconsistent mandate that they wear their ID, and then it not being, and we're saying it's punishable, one school could be punishing it, and then another school is not doing it, and then, because parents will talk.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, my student isn't being punished. Really? Well, over here they are. I'm just concerned about that, Ray. So, have we looked at that as well?
Yes, sir. I actually spoke to high school principals today, as a matter of fact. And so this will be, and of course, as far as district goes, as Dr. Kraft said, this is for high schools. But I will say that some middle schools also have chosen to try to implement it as well, which we think will help, as they, get up to the high school years. And so your point is a good one, and one that we've already discussed with all of them, and that we expect it to be consistent and standard across all high schools. And there will be, and obviously, anytime you start a new initiative, Johnny forgot to wear it. And they understand that. And like any other thing, we'll work through that. But as Dr. Kraft said, it's going to be the consistent, and the ones that refuse to wear that we'll have to deal with on a case by case.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm just asking those questions just to get clarification on that. So, and then, to Dr. Kraft, I agree with you when it comes to the safety of our kids. I am 100% behind you where we have a commissioned officer on our campus. So I'm right there with you on that. I agree. I feel much safer when we have our police officers who are commissioned and understand how to deal with a situation. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
with
think
you on that one.
in that regard, our biggest challenge obviously is staffing. And so bring forward allocations in the future, but I think that also something we're going to have to look at in the near future is compensation. As we're visiting with Bexar County and also San Antonio Police Department, we have a pretty significant shortage with law enforcement officials.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, Trustee Sutton.
Ray, I brought the Student Code of Conduct with me, the Section C, and I can't find it in there. So I think it may be at the very beginning of the handbook. I just brought the Section C, Student Code of Conduct. So I think we may have to include it, because I couldn't find anything about them having to wear their IDs.
And we will, Ms. Saldana, as Dr. Kraft said, we actually assembled a group this week.
Good.
That probably at a minimum quarterly needs to meet throughout the year, and we divided up elementary, middle, and high school in different departments to review all the areas. Specific to the student code of conduct, obviously, we're looking to make sure all of that's ready to go before the first day of school. The good thing about it is now that the technology is such that each department and level can actually go to a laptop and make the adjustment there or the correction. And so we'll ensure that that's in there though before the first day of school.
We have the student responsibility and district expectations, but it doesn't mention because I don't think this has been updated in a long time. So I think in those days we didn't require the IDs. They weren't as important as they are today.
Right, and more of a reason that with that item and others that we just need to be more consistent and quarterly meet on it. And this, as I think Dr. Duran mentioned and you're alluding to also, there's so many sections that we could say it falls under, as you said, student responsibility or insubordination that was mentioned or whatever. But either way, we'll make it a point to make it clear since it's a first time, an initiative that we're starting, so it is in writing, as Mr. Lopez asked.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? This one is discussion item. Okay. I just have one more. Listening to you all converse a little bit. Downstream, maybe a year down the line, which one of these potentially should be local type policies? The items that we've discussed, how many police officers we're putting where, even this discussion on the IDs, to your point.
That's a great question. Depending on, we haven't seen the rulemaking associated with House Bill 3, and so that's a prime question. We can obviously depict from the legislation itself what is going to be required. So I can foresee House Bill 3 coming in the form of local and/or legal policy, particularly with a TASB update in the near future. It's really one of those things that once we have TEA rulemaking, that will also dictate, like I say, TASB policy. And then anything that we want to include in local policy, whether that be high school IDs, requirements, et cetera, that can be included. We can write our own local policy as the board sees fit.
Right. Okay. Good. Just something for us to consider. Thank you. Okay. And the last one that I had real quick. Let's get, if everybody's okay, let's schedule that police department visit. I think that'll be a.
I think we should do it right along.
We can definitely schedule a police department visit. Again, if you haven't had the opportunity to see really the communications, but also how our patrol vehicles are equipped, we're very, very well equipped.
Okay.
So we'll work to schedule that.
Good. Okay, thank you. Okay, good. So next we'll go over, just checking, okay, discussion of our internal audit position.
Yes, sir. So I'll cover this item as well. I think you in your board documents have a posting for the Director of Internal Audit. It's been some time, I believe, since the district has had a internal audit department. There are 2 allocations dedicated to this particular office. Obviously, the Director of Internal Audit, but then there's also an Assistant Director of Internal Audits. By law, this individual or this position really is to report directly to the Board of Trustees. And so you'll see in the job description, we made just a couple of changes. That first line, under the direction of Board of Trustees and in coordination with the Office of the Superintendent. We've changed this to be in coordination with so that we could just help workflow. If we have, and I'll pick on Dr. Barajas very quickly, if we have an external financial audit underway, that's probably an area we need to be a little bit sensitive to in the event that we don't want to add another audit, i.e. in the form of internal audit on that particular department at that juncture in time. If you jump down to major responsibilities, number 5 has been changed to direct, coordinate, and monitor work performed by audit staff. And then number 7, research and help implement accounting software, the accounting software package. And then number 12 has been changed to complete special projects and audits as assigned by the Board of Trustees. So this individual in this position, if the board so chooses this evening for us to go ahead and post this job description, like I say, will report directly to the Board of Trustees. So as a result, being involved in the hiring process will be important. We have reached out to our external auditor, who is Whitley Penn, and they can serve in an advisory capacity to assist through the interview process. But like I say, this would be a position that the Board of Trustees would obviously be very much more involved in hiring and staffing. And then, of course, if the position is filled, the assistant director position could be filled thereafter. So that being said, like I say, this was brought before the Finance Committee this past week, and we wanted to go ahead and put it before the full board for your consideration and try to answer any questions that you might have.
I have another thought on asking the external auditor to advise us. Maybe we could ask the former internal auditor that we used to have whether she would be willing to sit with us, because that may not cost us any money, you know, and maybe she would volunteer to sit with us because she would know all the ins and outs. And she's been retired, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years.
That would be up to the board. I would caution, though, typically I have not had experience with including past former employees on any interview committee or process. But that would really be the board's call. I would just kind of caution.
Just an idea that wouldn't cost us money.
Any other comments, questions on? Okay, everybody sort of looks good. Okay, I think we can move forward then.
Go
ahead,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have a little button that lights
No,
up.
I know, I'm
tell
trying to
you when
watch.
they're right?
I'm watching.
Hey, no, real quick, on the, under the direction, when you said, under the job description, it says, under the direction of the Board of Trustees and in coordination with the Office of the Superintendent, and the what do you mean by coordination, if you can explain?
So primarily in scheduling.
Scheduling.
Typically, the audit process entails a risk assessment that really is just that. It's analyzing, assessing risk across departments. But then there's also the scheduling of requested data, the scheduling of individual interviews with the department members themselves. And so again, in coordination, the intent is just, let's be sensitive to time, depending on if, like I say, there's an external audit underway, there may be another form of review taking place. I'm kind of thinking about special education in the timing of, in the coordination of that internal audit, that we're just sensitive, we're not, like I say, creating too much of a workflow that the department really can't meet the expectations.
Okay.
So that's the coordination piece.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that clarification, because that was really important. I think because one of the concerns that I had brought up, and I just wanted to make sure that we understood, because according to law, this is saying that this staff member will only answer to the school board. It's not going to answer to anybody else.
Correct, and that's one of the, like I say, the job description has been changed
Yeah, just wanted-
to under the direction of the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure my colleagues understood that as well, or they saw that and they understood that. And so I guess nobody has any problems with that. Okay, good. One of the other things that, because I think in one of the discussions that we had in this, in the meeting too, was whether we hire, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, if we hire a director, or do we go with an outside auditing firm, right? And I think just so that way the trustees that weren't at the meeting were able to hear that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are really two trajectories. Going about, obviously, hiring the internal audit or auditor and the audit department, again, directly reporting to the board. The other would be to contract services, audit services. Now, again, that relationship would be directly reporting to the Board of Trustees, but there are auditing firms that they perform precise internal audit functions, and then, like I say, report to the board those audit findings in the continuous improvement planning process and development of an action plan. So that's a little bit of a different trajectory than obviously hiring your own individual auditor that's within the district the entire time. Again, though, the process is risk assessment. The board elects which departments or which programs they'd like to see audited, and you develop an audit plan or plan of work as a result.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's good, because I think the key to that was also understanding that auditor or firm, right, they're going to come with specific experience in each different department, right? And I'm just going to use the nutrition program. You know, maybe some of those guys have audited nutrition programs in the past, so they know, you know, specific things to look for. That is, you know, is that something that director of auditing would be able to understand as well? They're going to have that well-rounded experience.
So typically, if it's a contractor, contract services, they're going to hire experts, i.e. subcontractors, that may be former school nutrition directors that are now, like say, trained and are performing audits of a school nutrition department. So that's the nuance, or the little, I guess, caveat that they're allowed to really go out and hire those experts in the field, so to speak, whereas an internal auditor, there's going to be some on-the-job training just depending on their familiarity with the programs or the audits. So, like I say, either way, both functions or both pathways still report directly to the Board of Trustees.
Preparing this job really is just to prepare us to be prepared for the actual audit, and that we have our checks and balances, and that we're doing everything right, our grants, we're in compliance, all of that.
Well, not exactly. So it's not, I don't want to describe it as a pre-audit to the financial audit. So you have your annual financial audit that's going to be performed really by the external auditor. The internal auditor has the ability to look at various programs across the district. And so it's not as much a pre-audit to the financial audit, not to say that there's not maybe some overlap depending on the department that's being analyzed. This is really about continuous improvement. And I'll give an example, I'll provide an example. Are the accounting mechanisms in and around maybe activity funds or fundraising efforts or child nutrition programming? There's a variety of different programs and or departments that can entail auditing. So not really a precursor to the financial audit.
Yeah, I'll just add, when we had the position before, we really did, we didn't do the hiring in, but we did in the same way we're talking about this time. But we found it very valuable. We really did, to do exactly what you're stating, with different programs and other things that have that when we found with the skill base, because of the longevity of that particular person, et cetera, the other advantages from hiring individuals, they grow into learning those different areas, but they know the processes, they sort of know where things are at across the board, et cetera. So at least, but I can't remember when we actually didn't continue with that position any further when she retired, but when we had it, it was very valuable for us as a board. Yeah. Okay, any other, now this one's, oh no, this is possible action too. Any further comments, questions?
Yeah, so the possible action would be to post the job description, position as presented, or we can bring it back for further dialogue, further consideration.
And again, by posting, we still have the option. This is just to get it out there and see what we have, et cetera, and begin that part of it. Okay.
I don't believe so. Ben, do we have assistant director and/or director posted? The assistant job is posted. We'll probably bring that down, obviously, until if the board takes action to have this posted this evening, bring that job description down until you have the opportunity to consider this.
Next. Yeah, Trustee Freeman yet? And then.
Yes, thank you. Guess I'm just a little confused. So what would be the board's role in the hiring process?
You would actually go through the hiring process with, like I say, the external auditor in an advisory capacity to actually fill this position, with it reporting directly to the Board of Trustees.
I understand that they report directly.
We interview.
I understand that. We have never done that before, from my perspective. And obviously, I always thought that the only person that we were responsible for hiring, of course, is the superintendent. So I understand they report directly to the board, and I understand us having some involvement in that maybe. I also wonder about us, if there should be a limit on the number of, if the trustees are going to be involved in the interview, then my thought might be to not have a quorum of the board in on the interview, because then that decision goes before the board. Have we talked about that?
It didn't come up in the Finance Committee.
Didn't Renee, did you want to talk about that? Because that was a question that I brought up.
Well, I think in the interest of keeping this position as independent from all of us as possible, to not have any staff member on the interview team. I mean, I'm suspect number one, over all the money. So it would be prudent, for instance, for 3 board members to do the interviewing and then make a recommendation to the full board to keep that independence away from any staff member who could possibly influence somebody that they know will be lenient on them. So we want to keep that separation as much as possible.
Could you mention the law that was stated on there?
Well, I mean, just the education code that says that.
What was that code again?
I forget the act, it may be in this, we had it at the Finance Committee, but it says that if a school district has an internal auditor, it doesn't say you shall, it says if they do, the position shall report to the board, and the position shall be selected by the school board. So it's like that policy that Mr. Galindo showed earlier, very short and sweet. And I think that in the spirit of keeping that position independent from anybody in the district, including the superintendent, except for the fact that the coordination part with the superintendent's office to make sure that they're not auditing, say, C&I at a time when they're engaged in something that is crucial to the operation of the district. That's the coordination piece that Dr. Kraft was talking about. But as far as how the board goes about hiring, perhaps TASB could give some recommendations, since there are so many internal auditors around the state, and can counsel about, how others have done this. And we did check with our external auditor, with Penn, who said they can serve as an advisor to the board in the event that they choose to use their services.
Yes, as far as I know, there are no recommendations, or I don't think there's anything printed about how school boards hire, not from TASB anyway, that I've ever seen. So and we don't have any experience in doing this, so I'm a little concerned about going forward with the process and not knowing.
We can
some
definitely, like I
history.
say, the position hasn't been filled, I believe, for a little over a year, if I'm not mistaken.
January of 2023 was when the former director of internal audit retired.
Interesting.
We can bring back some further information in regards to what the suggested practice or process will entail before doing anything with this job description. And like I said, we can continue the conversation. We'll try to have this back to the board by the 22nd.
But what we're looking at here right now is just to approve the posting.
Yeah.
And so,
If you'd like to see the position posted, and of course it has to be posted for the required 10 days. But like I say, if you need further information in regards to the process even before we post the position, I'll be glad to bring it back.
I don't have a problem with us posting the position, because if we get people to interview, because we don't know if we're going to get any people to interview, but if we do and we interview them and we're not happy, then we just repost. I don't think we're required, because we post the position, that we have to hire someone. If we're not happy with it, then we just thank you, but we're going to repost.
Any other comments or questions? Trustee Lopez? Oh, I'm sorry. I saw you move your finger. I was trying to, okay. No, yeah, it's up to the board per se, but that's one point. In addition, I think we could find out in this next week if we go ahead and post it on, the best process procedure. In addition to having superintendent check, what we can also do is we can check some districts we know to see, check with some of their board members to see how they've done things too. So that's another option for us. Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So right now, just to make for clarity, we're just going to move to approve, or we're going to just approve the job posting.
And to be posted.
And to be posted. Because we can always come back, and the board can come back and
Discuss the process.
The process, and maybe we get some consultation and.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of
I think
answer those
that
questions
there's
that some
gonna
of the
be-
board members have.
Yeah,
We
there's
can
probably going to be some other steps subsequent to this action in regards to a audit charter, and really what the whole audit program looks like. So this is really just more or less initiating the posting of this position.
Okay. So then, with that, if I can, I move that we post the job description as recommended by staff.
Okay, all right, motion second?
I'm sorry, the Director of Internal Audit
Okay.
position as recommended by staff.
All right, duly noted on the second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Been moved to second. Any further discussion? It's not moving to second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Good, motion carries. And let me clarify for the record, I said something about, I don't recall if the board was involved before. Let me say it this way. I don't know or not. It may have been that the board did before, but let me state that because I don't want to be inaccurate. I can't remember how we did it before. Okay? All right. Let's go ahead and move over to discuss naming process of our new elementary village at West Point West.
Yes, sir. So we also wanted to go ahead and provide this information as well, and I think that may be a timeline that we're getting ready to put forth, but I'll provide a physical copy. So this is your newest elementary campus that is underway, and we've provided kind of an overview in regards to the process. So I'm going to work backwards. We'd like to try to have a name for this new campus. And again, this is the campus at Village at West Point West. We've started moving earth, and I believe we're now in the process of drilling piers, and so it's coming right along. But by September 26th is what we're asking, and that's our target date to have a name. And so, in essence, just working backwards, we don't have a meeting scheduled the 19th. Of course, the board can elect to call a meeting if necessary. September 12th, we're still working to, in essence, try to schedule our Team of 8 board retreat. But again, that's not to say that this item couldn't be revisited at that point. So then the 22nd, this is, of course, our public hearing and adoption of the fiscal year 24 budget, as you're already familiar. But that will be our next regular meeting, and then that leads us to this evening, again, backwards planning, the naming process, CW local, which you have a copy of the policy, I believe, in your board docs as well, particularly outlining the process for naming an elementary campus, and then also the community nomination process, which has been opened, is continued to be open. I believe we do have some nominations as well. And so, like I say, we wanted to bring this item really for information this evening, but to allow the board the opportunity to discuss the naming process of this elementary campus.
Yeah, and there's, if I walk through a couple of things regarding that, correct me if I'm wrong, the other purpose of this, what you just stated, is that this would be our announcement or our intent to name a new elementary school officially also.
Thank you.
Which is also
Yes, sir.
within the policy itself. So that would serve that intent too. And then that way, if we're going to receive any more nominations, the other thing too that we clarified this year is that nomination package out there, we look back for 1 year. I forgot we actually put that in the policy. So for those that have questions on how long do we go back, it's actually in our policy that we use a 1 year window, and that would start from tonight, okay, and then go back one. Okay, and I think y'all have already looked at once we have there. We sort of followed, we definitely follow our policy, but how we've done it has varied a little bit through the different years, and that's something that we want to talk about, especially using the calendar that our superintendent just showed us. The ideal, and then see what comments, questions others have. And by the way, I did talk to Carol too, so I'll tell you her input too, just so we have everybody's input into it. Is typically what we would do is first come up with the names, and there's a couple ways that can be done. First is we're going to use the ones that were submitted. So the next question is, and then if anything else is added on, and we give that window of when we're going to have those additional names or nominations that can be received. If any trustees want to submit additional names, again, that's been a couple of different ways. One way that Carol sort of suggested also is, we just identify who we want to be included and make sure we include information similar to what we have in the package for nominations, so everybody has the proper background to that. Then we go through the process of, and this is where it can take multiple meetings or 1 or 2 meetings. That's what varies a little bit, is how do we narrow that down? And that usually comes down to how many names we actually receive. We've had up to 30 or 40 at times, and we knew it's going to take a couple of rounds to go through and narrow it down. Or if it's smaller, we can make it shorter. So what was suggested sort of for this time, and sort of what Carol was suggesting, is that we, for our next meeting, all the trustees submit the names that they want considered for the nomination process. It's a little bit different from historical. And the way that we would get those names is those that are provided from the process that we already have in there from this last year, and any new ones up to the deadline, and any names you want submitted. But instead of looking at all of them, we would actually use a process. We would identify, here are the ones I suggest. And that would be done at the August 22nd meeting. Okay, and then once we see how many we have at August 22nd and get to that point, then we can determine, okay, how do we want to narrow it down, or we could even have it for action at that particular point. To get to the September 12th meeting is when we expect to have it narrowed down to, a much smaller list. And so then we would be ready by September 26th. We wouldn't have to see the 19th to make a naming. That's one suggestion. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
How does the community submit the names? I'm looking online, but where did they have the opportunity to submit names?
Barry, do we have the ability to navigate real quickly through the link?
I'll show you the form. Yeah, it's actually a form on the website.
Okay, I just want to know where it is I can post it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's, if you go to the community tab, as a community member, and then if you'll scroll down on that page, you'll see a block that says name of school.
Go ahead, any other, because this one's usually there's a good amount of dialogue, on this one, so go ahead, Trustee Freeman, yeah.
Yeah, so I know I had a call from a community member, wasn't too long, maybe a couple months ago, who wanted to nominate, and I had a difficult time. And I know, Barry, I spoke with you. It is still not easy to find. If you search for name of school in the search column, you can't find it, and or it doesn't come up. Or at least I can't, in the search column on the Northside website, if I push in name of school or school naming, I don't get it. I guess my concern is you actually have to know where to find it. Maybe it's me that's not looking for it. I'm just concerned that our community we haven't had an all call for naming of West Point location. And the people that have submitted names before, though, have put on the form itself, it asks the location of the school. So I don't know how many people know that we have a school coming up. That's just my concern. I would.
But remember, that's tonight. In theory, this is the all call.
Okay.
Tonight, that we would do.
So to that point, though, then they only have how long to submit? What is our discussion on August 22nd?
Mm-hmm.
Be right at 2 weeks. We can move this tab to the home page.
Yeah, we could put it on the
with an
latest
announcement.
news, right?
I think it would help to put it on the front page. I just wonder if we have the opportunity. I didn't realize that we were looking at the timeline. I just wonder if we extend this timeline, because it is the summer, people are still on vacation.
Absolutely.
I guess I'm just concerned about the tight timeline.
Yeah, this is just a proposed timeline. We have a little bit of leeway. Ideally, would be September 26th, but if we need to bump it back a little bit, we have a little bit.
Well, that's where the September 19th was sort of put in there, because what we could do, is the other option, if we want to try to make this timeline, is we can leave it open until, I don't know, after the 22nd or so, and then we would use September 12th is when we would ask for the trustees to have their names, et cetera.
Sure.
And then to give to everybody almost, then school's open, et cetera, so that would give everybody a little bit more time. And then we would have the 19th, we could have a called meeting then. That would be the other option, timeline-wise.
It's just kind of early. What is our usual timeline for naming schools? Has it always been in the fall?
I think it's been a little earlier, Ms. Freeman. And we can, as Dr. Kraft said, we need to delay. The School Boundary Advisory Committee will meet in October, so it's always good to have the name of the school when we go through that process. However, if we don't have a name at that point, we can still go through it. But there is a piece there that typically, at least the last quite a few that we've been through, where we speak to the namesake as part of the boundary advisory process.
Thank you for that. I did not remember that. I was thinking that we were doing that like after the first of the year. So I just wasn't anticipating. Thank you.
And to let trustees know, there have been times where we didn't make the schedule and we moved it out because we don't rush it. And it's like, hey, so that's not a problem, to be honest. So what do y'all think about that? But, well, two things. It seems like everybody, at least, unless we're just talk about the process and just forget about the timeline for a second. Is everybody okay with the process that we at least talked about? Okay. Okay, so if we're okay with the process, then from a timeline standpoint, if we shift it back to September 12th would be the time frame that we were planning to have all the board members submit their names, would that be okay? Mm-hmm. And then we'll see where we are then for the 19th and the 26th. Okay. So, so let me ask this, everybody's good with that. At what point are we going to share the current names that we have? And, or do we want to wait to get everything accumulated by whatever that deadline is for submissions for the nominations online?
Yes, sir. That's really the preference of the board. We can provide the names and update. We can provide them in a Friday newsletter update, or we can wait until the 12th and unveil them in essence all at once. It's really preference of the board.
Yeah, now everybody would need them in advance just so they can work through their list. So what if we did this? If we got an update by, let's say, the end of the month, August 31st or so, and if anything comes in afterwards, we'll add to it each week?
We can definitely add that to the Friday letter, which I believe would be in and around September 1st or 2nd.
Okay.
So in the Friday letter.
Is that okay with everybody? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we'll provide an updated list of nominations that we've acquired up to that point to the Board of Trustees on the Friday letter on the 2nd of September.
Yeah.
Right? First, September 1st.
And if we use that as a date, then if any trustees, whatever names that you have, our goal would be to send that out too, so that everybody has full information, because you have the description and everything. So if we could have yours also, and we'll just have to figure out. By the 1st? By September 1st, everybody time to look it over so we can get to the 12th on actually, hey, here's what I'm recommending. Or, yeah, go ahead, Kat. Trustee Freeman.
Yeah, just a comment. I don't remember us getting them in advance, if you will. And I would suggest that if trustees have somebody to bring forth a name and are going to write up a nomination, even if someone else has made that nomination, I would suggest a trustee continue to just go ahead and do that, whether it's been done before or not.
Agree.
So I don't know if there's a need to, I mean,
Well, I think because what I'm worried about is if we get to September 12th, if we don't have them by then, it's going to delay it, because I'm going to say, wait a minute, I need more time to review this.
Sure.
So that's the goal of getting it a little bit early, if possible. But I agree, yeah, it does help. It makes a difference. Sometimes you have a different way of writing it, et cetera. Okay. It may not all work, but we at least want to try that. September 1, okay.
Well, because the goal is it opens this time
Tonight.
next year. So we have
Oh,
to
yeah.
pick a name,
Yeah.
right, by,
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's a great point, probably pertinent to the conversation. Our goal is to open this elementary campus for the 24-25 school year. So, yes, right at a year.
Okay, good. All right, so I think we've got a plan then. Any other comments, questions? All right, good, thank you all. Okay. All right, so that concludes, we're in the call meeting, so we don't have future agenda items, so we'll go ahead and we'll get ready to go into our executive session. So the Board of Trustees on, what's today's date? August 8th, beginning at, what time do y'all need till, let's say 8:15? 8:15, as a goal, we'll convene a closed meeting according to Texas Government Code, the sections 551 that are identified. Discussion to take place on the items that were listed. So we're going to go in the right, the other. So the Board of Trustees on August 8th, beginning at 8:40, convene back in open meeting. Is there any action to come before the board?
I move that we approve the recommendations for administrative appointments.
Okay, move to second that we approve the administration appointments. All those, any further discussion? Okay. Been moved to second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, state nay. Great. All right, well, thank you all. So we're in our meeting at 8:41. Thank you, everybody. Well done. A lot accomplished tonight, so thank you all.